Well, looks like it's time. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Art with Mad Mel. I am the Madman. Thank you for being here. Sunday stream. Usually I paint. It's still sticking up. And I got my Ninja Turtle shirt on today, so I'm actually feeling pretty good. So, yes. Today we're going to do hand-drawn art. And I had two people in the Mad Room, well, basically the Discord. We're asking two questions, so I'm going to go over that tonight, and it's going to be a how-to. I'm going to show you something, because Skew asked for technique and or anything. Let me make sure I get this correct, because I don't want to say this incorrectly. But the question was, or what I asked is, who wants to learn some art tonight? Let me know what you're most interested in. It will be pen and paper. Everyone should have these tools. And then, little suggestion about struggling with details. Maybe some technical stuff or just in general. Okay, and then we also had Bean Boozler was like, could I talk about perspectives as well? I have most trouble with that. So we're going to be talking about those two things tonight. So, hopefully this might be beneficial for you. If any of you have seen my work before, this kind of gives you a little bit more insight on how my process works and how I see art. So let's go on ahead and go to the table so we can get working on this, and we'll keep the chat going as we go along, so we'll see what's happening. And if we got time, I might work on something else. So here we are. Now, it's simple enough. If anybody has a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, don't have to be anything spectacular, but if you want to learn, I can teach you, and it's very simple. So perspective and detail. We're going to work with perspective first. We're going to piddle around with that, and I want to turn the music down just a tad so it's not overpowering, and just wanted enough for a little background noise, So I'm going to try pencil first. See if it comes up decently, so you guys can kind of get an idea. So my normal way of going about perspective, or the general idea with perspective, is to see exactly, draw distance from one point to another, and usually however your naked eye sees anything, you got basically three forms of how you will see a perspective. You have foreground, which is back here, right? And then you would have midground, which would be right here. And then you would have foreground, which could be right here. Now, depending on depth of perspective, right, would depend on how far this line here, try to make this as dark as possible so you guys can see it, but that's where that line would be more, it would judge how far back and where you want to go. So this is the pivot point of how you want it to go, right? Now, you might ask yourself, okay, well that's good, now we have the horizon line, so you know where everything's going to be built up from this point. So if you wanted to do, let's say, scenery back here, you know everything from this point back, even to like a crest of the sun or a moon, right? You know that that's going to be your further draw distance. Probably a pen would probably be better for this, so you guys can see this a little bit easier. So you got the 3 points, right? There we go. That's a little bit better, I would assume. So you got the 3 points, and then over here you would be able to see, like, this would be basically a normal horizon line, or it could be the start of it, but anywhere from here further back to about this point, you could call that your far distance. This would be basically everything in the background. So and do background. And don't worry about my spelling. That's basically background area. That's kind of where you would be at anywhere in this specific zone. So once you figure out where that's going to be, that's where you will start that's where you're going to figure out your depth. right? So if you're going to go back here, you would say that this would be basically where your skyline would be at, and this would be how far away from the horizon that you would go. This is how you would judge the depth of how far everything is drawn, the draw distance from this point back. So if, let's say for example, you wanted it to be right here instead, right? Instead of it being back here and everything, you wanted it here. How would this make any sense? Well, if you wanted to do the same V shape where you would just come up, you could bring it here, right? And that would give you elongation, like a hallway, right? So you would have that. So you could do it that way, or if you wanted to give it more depth, you could come up here. So this is where you would be able to fill that out. And if you want to say, let's say we want to turn this into a hallway, right? So now you have the beginning part of the midground, right? So this would be the beginning part of it. And then you would just bring this over and then bring it down. And then from there, then you would have the next section for how this hallway would come down for your actual mid-ground. So this whole mid-section here, this would be all your background, mid-ground, and then foreground would be basically right here leading back. And that can go for any picture. So let me finish showing you this. If I'm losing anybody, let me know. I don't wanna lose anyone. For those of you that are watching, but let's see here. We would bring this here, right? You could bring it that way. You could bow it around. Now I'm just doing different things for you to see what you can do. Like if you wanted to bow the perspective this way for like a smaller hallway, you know, depending however you wanted to go. Like, oh man, it's a ship or whatever, you could do that, you know, so you can have that off jointed depth. You see, like it could lead back and then you could do something else here if you wanted to, even like a upstairs part. So I'm just giving you ideas of what you can do with that. So from here, if you wanted to say, if you were doing a comic or something, you would probably fill this out. That would be the end of that. Now when you get closer to the mid-ground to foreground, from here, this is where basically the depth of the room, you would have that already judged out. So from what we have here already, we would just be an extension from this point pretty much almost to the end of the page, and then this would just follow to all the way forward. Hey, how you doing, Nuclear Nuisance? Thank you for being here. So then you could just pull it straight forward, so you can either make the room elongated to give it a full hallway effect. So if you wanted to. Now mind you, I'm just all eyeball with this, right? So I'm not doing anything but just using my natural eye and just following the trajectory of it. So however that you want to go with it, you can elongate it. I'm just giving you ideas. Or if you wanted to continue this like a downward angle, you can continue that even forward, and you can just make the draw distance more of an upper point, and then you can pull it away. So you can still lead the same scene going if you want to go that way, or if you wanted to tilt it down, like say for example this was going down, right? You could even do that. You could bring it down here, bring this up like that, and see this can even be a downward step area here, and see how the perspective just changed all by just the simple fact of angling it. Still in the same perspective, and it's still the same here. And even though that I did many different things, your eyes can adjust to it and you can see where it would go. Like if this was a door, see this would make sense too, and it's all in the same focal point. You know, if you wanted to, you could leave it this way, like, oh, this drops down, and then you can make sense of it. Like, for example, a ship. If this was a ship, you could put that like, oh, you know, the dock door dropped down, boom. You know, and this can be something else, right? You can do, there's many different things. So the perspective basically is where you're going to start at and then where you want to go or where you want to finish it. There. So, I'm going to go back here on the back side of it. Now you might ask, like, well, that's cool and all, Mel, but that ain't really what I'm needing. That's not really what I need to know. I need to know something a little bit different. Okay, well, let me guess. You want to know, like, if you're doing a picture what would be a good perspective, right? Like, oh man, I'm trying to draw this dynamic pose or whatever. Okay, so depending on what you want to do with that, let's say you want to do an angle, side angle, like a head. Most people, hey, how you doing, Fox? Hi, I'm drunk. Well, that's great. If you're drunk, you're going to learn some perspective today about different angles and perspective. So let's start with the side angle. We'll start with old Bill here. Bill is just a normal little stick man. Let me make sure my pen's working right. There we go. Ah, there you go. All right. So here's old Bill, right? There's old Billy boy standing there. Wave to everyone, Bill. Look at Bill. He's got a nice little posture. Good posture, right? There he is. And he's all chipper and nice, right? And there he is. He's waving at everybody. See, he's saying hello, right? But then from here, you know, how would we show this perspective if there was somebody standing here in the foreground, but we wanted a long shot angle here, right? How would we do that? Well, I will show you. How this will happen is this man is now going to be the focal point of where everything is going to come from. So we're going to start off with it being smaller in the back. So everything's going to lead up to this point where his hip is at. So you want everything to kind of line up like in a V shape. Everything wants to be slightly in a V or L, you know, and it takes time. Now there might be other people that might come in and be like, this guy's completely wrong and he's stupid, he don't know anything. That's fine if you think that. Nobody's saying that you don't have your own opinion to things, you know. But as you see here, the further I go back with the perspective, you get a more detailed understanding of where you want to go, because wherever this leads, it can lead here and it can just turn over here like concrete, you know, like at a park. Because this could be a park, who knows? But now we see that this is where it all ends, right? Because there we go. That's the perspective that we have here, right? And it's open. And it's a little area that goes in there. And then we have that here. Now that makes absolutely no sense. Hey, how's it going? You know, what's going on here? It's like a tube, right? So that's the perspective here. The main focal point is going to be right here. That's farther background, right? This is going to be background area from this point on. So you got the upper part of where you're going to build everything else. Remember this, okay? So everything is in division in different layers. You got this point, you're drawing this point back. And then from this point, you need to have a field that you're going to put everything in here so you can build everything back. So everything is basically layers. You're layering everything down. That's how a picture works. So perspective is like, where do I want everything? So because this is here, it's not going to look like it's going to be going in any weird direction, right? Except for the fact that the elongation is going to be lined up with the man's eye. So how would this work? Well, this seems to be like a tunnel or something in that order, right? And as this is moving, you want it to still look organic. You don't want everything to be stiff. That's a problem with art. Sometimes it can be stiff, right? Nobody wants anything to be stiff. You want it to flow. You want it to feel like it's motion. You want it to feel like there's some type of depth or life. So once you have this set, now where is this going? This is going to be basically the horizon line for the man's face, which would just be right here. You see? And it's not fully on. It's still in an angle, right? And that's where the perspective would go. But everything's going to be elongated in this way. So, you know, even if we do have it there, oh boy, there's my chin. You know, he's got the little wonky neck. And we'll just make him look silly, right? Nothing too serious, just kind of a dopey stick man. And I want to show you what this is for too, because that was also something that was asked, like a technique or whatnot. And there's different things that you can do as well. But as you can see, everything is still, the perspective is still right there. You know, you can still have the eye here, and it's still right there. Everything's still drawn to him. Everything's still drawn as it goes away. Because see, even over here, you would put something here to make it feel like there is a end point. You know, you have to have like an endpoint. You know, where's his endpoint? His endpoint is right here. Still in conjunction. Everything is still lined up and everything. Even if I go here, it's still going to be there. Even if I took this and did something funky like this and bring it back, what's still happening here? Still in perspective with his head. Even if I took it out and did something like this and everything, you know, had this nifty little overhang and a whole bunch of silly stuff, even with a bar in the ground and even something over here and like an overhang for a little patio, you know, and then put something else here and all that. It's all still lined up. Still going back here, mountain and stuff. You see what I'm saying? Like even that, you can do that, and you can add a little something here like that, and a little sunrise and a little whatever you want. Horse, whatever. It's still lined up in the same perspective. It's still in that same all from here. Does that make any sense? If it doesn't, let me know, and I can try to go over a little bit different. But you can see where it should be, and everything will line up. And even if the man's here, you know, you could draw it further back if you wanted to. You know, whatever you want to do. However you want to do it. Can Captain Seaman fly over? I guess, if that's what you want. I mean, what, like this? There you go, Fox. There you go, Fox. There. I hope you. I hope that's to your liking. That's a character I did before, but. Anyways, I hope that kind of gives an idea with that. Anybody have any questions, you can throw it in the chat. And I can kind of make more sense of this, you know. There we go. Oh boy. Cool. I hope that explained that. Unfortunately, the mad ones that I was going to try to teach this to, maybe they'll show up. Maybe they will show up. So, I will come back to this. Let's see. I guess the next thing, did I explain perspective decently enough? I mean, if there was something else that you wanted to see with perspective, I can do it. Like, let's say, for example, let's see. I got a perfect example. Here. I'll show you. We can use this for that. Wonderful opportunity. Here we go. we'll use this picture I was already working on. Right? Now, we'll show you perspective with this. How are you going to find any perspective in this? Here's a teachable moment. Where do you think that the next area is going to be? I'm going to point at it, okay? And when I point at it, I want to give you guys a few minutes, and then you can actually type this in, okay? So, do you think that this is going to be? That would be what? Mid-ground, foreground? Where do you think that it would be? Where do you think that the depth? This would that be mid-ground, foreground, mid-ground, background, or would that just be mid-ground, or would this just be background? Like, how do you see it? Which way do you see it? I see it as being both. That's how I see it. But before I do it, I just want to see what you guys see. I'm going to work on this part down here while you're doing that. And then I'm going to wait for the others to come back. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to go over technique, right? Now, everybody's got a different technique. You're going to figure out a technique of your own that's going to work. And if you don't know a technique, this is how you basically learn, like a technique, okay? So, what I did is I found with like Todd McFarlane, I liked his harsh style of Spawn. I've been a fan of that, right? So that was the inspiration for more of the grittier work, right? What is his name? A lot of people liked H.D. Giger. I mean, he was alright. I ain't gonna say that his work wasn't good. I mean, I do like the alien xenomorph aspect and what was from there. But what really interested me and what got me into looking into details, I started looking into like medical books. I have family members that were into the medical field and they were easily accessible to me, and the library, and I started looking at that and just studying things. And really what allowed me to understand is optical illusions. That's a very useful tool. Like, for example, the way of a technique I like to use is squiggly lines. See, squiggly lines work on the brain in a different way. Like, you could draw a straight line and it'll make sense, but you put a bunch of squiggly lines and your brain tries to fill in the absent space. It works for you and against you. And how so? Is if you have, and I'm not saying that if you have psychosis, not saying that, but say, for example, if you have like ADD or something in that order where you think a little bit more rapidly and fast, your brain will try to put it together, and in most cases it will put something not as pretty, to say the least, because your brain's working twice as hard trying to figure it out, and usually it comes out as something more grotesque or frustrating looking that is unrecognizable. And it doesn't happen all the time, but it can, you know. There we go. And one of the techniques that I like to do, especially when it comes to things like this, for example, I like to make sure that the lines are close to each other, and I like to give it a look of a raised, veiny kind of look. And how I do that is basically make sure the lines are close together but have enough space that you can emphasize it, right? You just want enough, because less is more, right? If you figure out how to use absent space as an ally instead of an enemy, you'll be a much better artist, because that helps you. You're playing with the mind's eye, right? And nothing's more, I would say nothing is more controlling of the human mind, especially when it comes to creativity and understanding art, and then the actual mind itself being able to understand what it is looking at. Because you have to be able to perceive it yourself. Like, art is all, the artist will make one thing, and then your perception of how you see it is all on you, right? So if you don't know how to perceive it, or you don't know how to allow your mind to be free, you have a hard time understanding it. But there's also techniques too that can help with that, like for example, staticky lines, real fast, jittery lines. You know, sometimes you can use that for like definition, like, you know, doing that to make something look a little bit more defined, like what I'm doing here. Like, you can find something and kind of etch it along, make it a little bit rougher, right? And then you find little shady, shadowy areas, right? And then you just etch a little bit there. And then it gives it that rough look. You see what I mean? So it gives it kind of a grittier look. And you just want to add that to when you have a structure. So say, for example, this is going to be an opening, right? So this right here is just a lip of rock. But what I'll do here is I'll just squiggle a little bit there, and then squiggle a little bit there, a little bit here, and a little bit over there. So it looks rough. And then you just add a little bit of lines to give it that look, right? And you have to play around with it. That's the thing with finding out a way of doing it properly, is that you have to try it out and just teach yourself to not be afraid of it. Yeah, you'll make a mistake. There's many times I made a mistake. I made a bunch of mistakes right here as I've been doing this, even talking to you guys. But I've learned to not be so critical, and you have to allow yourself to grow with that too, you know, because being able to find a technique is being able to figure out what's comfortable for you. See, simplest thing is this. I wear this glove now when I do so because I don't like to get paint on my hands. But if you ever look, I never hold my pen like this. I don't hold my pen like that. I hold it like this. Everybody thinks I'm weird and bizarre and strange, but I have more control. I can hold it like that. I can hold it like this. Just depends on what you want to do. Just depends on what's comfortable for you. So art is about comfort of oneself. And if you can't be comfortable with your tools, then, you know, you're doing it wrong, right? So once you're comfortable with and positioning and holding your tools and stuff, that's all. Your hand is different than everybody else's. So I don't pay much attention to that. I don't pay much attention. You're going to hold it a certain way. You got to hold it the way that the tool's supposed to work, right? Calligraphy pens, you have to hold it a certain way for it to work. But as for everything else, I don't give too much into that. And little rough lines kind of give a little bit more definition too, kind of give it a little bit separation as well. And you can do separation with like light and color, darkness and stuff. This music isn't really doing it for me. I don't want to listen to that. There we go. That's much better. Oh boy, what do I have here? Did somebody drop something? Stream. Oh no. Well, we may be missing someone tonight, but that's okay though. That's why we have the stream is always archived. You know, that's the beautiful part about it being archived. Had to check that real quick. You know, Mad One wasn't able to make it out of the facility today, but that's okay. We'll still keep going strong. So yeah. Now my style of doing art is I like to emphasize on the darker shaded parts. Other people don't do that. They think my work is a little bit different in that way. And I say different because sometimes they talk bad about my stuff. So what? Everybody's got something to say, right? If you got 2 feet in the head, they're going to say something's weird about you. So, they're full of no behavior, and what I do is I like to find where I can emphasize, because I like to do my shading not to just like, oh, the light's right here, and it, you know, looks good, and no. I want it to look, when you look at it, I want it to look like something popping at you. I want you to feel it and feel unnerved, like, why is that page looking at me? You know, I want you to look at it and say, why does that look like that? And how to do that is literally you find the points and then you emphasize those, right? You just find certain points. Like if there's a point that you look at and it's like, oh man, that looks like something a little bit harder. Well, I can emphasize that with a little bit more darkness and shade that into what I want it to look like, and then I can morph it from that point like that. Like I made that look like a bunch of adjacent rocks, right? Now somebody might look at that and be like, Mel, I don't see none of that. But see, that's the thing. You can train your eye that way. And let me show you. I can show you one section here, right? 1 second. Let me take a look at something real quick. Oh no. Okay. There we go. Alright, so I'll show you a section here and you'll see it. For the mad ones that are watching, do you see anything here? Do you see anything in this area at all? Do you see it going anywhere? Do you see lines going anywhere? I'll give you a minute. And if you do, just say yes. And if you don't, just say I don't see it. I never see it. I understand, Demetria. I get it. I know sometimes you don't see it. If anybody else sees it, I will show you, or just tell me yes, and then I'll show you what I see, because I see many different things. I see there's something here going into something else, this going into something. There's many things all over there, but I'll give you guys a moment while I finish working on this. So light and shadow are brother and sister, right? They both work exactly the same. It just depends on how you manipulate it, right? And darkness against the light is always going to work in a certain way, but not always. You know, there has to be a great contrast. And you definitely want that with your work. As you can see there, that gave that look of it being kind of lifted up, right? I always see faces. I'm sure, let me guess, you see this being an eyeball there, and that being an eyeball there, and that probably a nose, and this probably a mouth, and that probably a piece of chin, or maybe this is part of the eye here, and that's the mouth, and that's the nose. Right? Right? Am I close? You know, like here's the nose, and there's the mouth, and then there's the chin, kind of like a weird clown face. Right? Am I close? Am I close, Nuclear? Because I feel like that's close to what you're seeing. Uh-oh, I think this pen might be empty. Oh no. Is it? Let me see. Oh no, it's not. But I'll tell you what it might be. Oxidized. See, calligraphy pens, I love them, but you got to be real on top of them, right? Got to be really on top of them. So, what I see here is actually a bunch of other stuff. I don't see all of that, but we'll lead up to that. Here we go. So we're going to do that a little bit there. We'll give a little bit there. We'll do this and finish that off, and then we'll do that. And then what we'll do here is I will make that this little lip here. You see. And you see all that is a bunch of squiggly lines, right? But you see how that gives it that depth, right? Like it's falling off. You know the norm. I see multiple ones smiling, another one looking it like it's screaming. I see when where someone had throw up and made it art then. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you know, everybody see, that's the thing. Everybody sees something different, right? Nobody's seeing the same thing. And that's the beauty of art. There isn't, and that right there, we learned a very fundamental lesson there. Everybody sees something different. You can have as much fundamentals and all these other things as you want to, but if your eye doesn't see what somebody else wants you to see, unless if it's specifically what they want you to see, the abstract work really works off the mind. And that's the problem. A lot of people who don't have a very... You can always tell someone has lost their imagination as a child going into adulthood. Because if you show them something that's abstract and they don't know how to put it together or even let their imagination run wild enough to put it together, they gave up their imagination. And there's nothing wrong with you if you did that. It's just that's the reason why some people aren't able to see it. Now, oh, well, I don't have artistic ability. That doesn't mean that you aren't able to. Once upon a time, unless if you grew up out of the ground or you had severe head trauma, at one point in time, you used to have an imagination. But it's not our faults that we lost it. It's the situation that we are just, unfortunately, we just live in. Sometimes we lose it. Sometimes we get to keep it, right? There. That's what you get to see there. You see, that's what I was seeing, right? And it's like, wow, Mel, I didn't see that. And see, here's a perspective again. See, remember? Look. Boom, right? And here it is. And it doesn't seem like it would be the mid-ground, right? Because it almost looks like it would be something else. But it is. It's still mid-tier, mid-ground. Nothing has changed very much. Still the same. Or this could be the background. Depending on how you want to do it. At this pinnacle point right here, you can do whatever you want and change the direction of the picture. If you really wanted to, you can make that the background, then throw something completely different right here. Paint this all over, because I've done that before. Get it right where I want it, and then change it at the last minute. There's nothing wrong with that either. It just depends on what you're feeling, because there's no mistake in art. No such thing as a mistake. And if anybody ever tells you it's a mistake, they suck and they don't have any hands. They have nothing but 2 left feet for hands. They don't have no artistic skill. I said that, yes, and you can tell them that a madman on YouTube told me to tell you that. There we go. Well, I hope that this was able to help people. I don't know if what I was talking about was helpful with different ways of perspective, or if I answered the question properly. I know one of the mad ones wasn't on here for me to be able to fully be able to know. But hopefully for you guys that are on here that are watching, maybe that was able to help you if you had a question about it. Or if that was something that you always wanted to know, and maybe I was able to help you figure that out. Or if I didn't and you think I suck and, I should have just shut up and not be on here, you're entitled to your opinion too. Granted, you have potted meat lips, but nobody cares about that either, right? I don't have time for haters. They don't bother me. I've had people troll me before in real life. Trolls don't bother me. They just stink. Trolls stink. Anyways. So, let's see. What do we got here? We almost got something else, right? Well, I guess let's just keep going then. And see if you wanted to do that, and then, with the fog, can still do that too, because the fog is still there. right? And see, there it is, the jagged lines again, right? And just a little bit there, a little bit there. See, and then just a little bit there. And then you can kind of fill it out. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, oh man, that don't make no sense. Okay, well, here you go. Now, I want to show you my favorite part. And some of you may like this part and some of you may not. Shading. I know one of you do. I know one of you do. Now, with this picture, you ain't going to really get much in shading because it's already got gray, right? But if you wanted to, with something like this, I want to show you how you do a little bit of white lining with calligraphy, right? Now, this is very touchy. You want to be careful when you're doing this because this is one of those moments I like to call a no point of return. Because once you start dabbling with this and, excuse me, you're not confident in yourself. And I emphasize on confidence. Remember, confidence, right? If you're not confident in this, you will mess it up, right? Because the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to get nervous, you're going to get scared, you're going to overthink it, and then you're going to drip. And once you drip, that's when it's going to get out of control. You're going to get too much, right? So, this is what I'm going to show you, how I do it myself. Okay, so when I usually get the paint, I usually get a little bit on the calligraphy pen. Usually try to get one that's a finer tip. As you can see here, it's a little bit more finer point on the tip. But once I get the finer tip, now I know some of you might go, you said tip, pause, whatever. You know, once I get that there and I get this finally working, because, you know, sometimes it likes to gunk up, then you just come through and shade in. And how I shade in is usually I just come through and I find a spot that normally I would put gray or anything like that, and I just emphasize it with a little bit of back and forth with the calligraphy pen, right? And just give it just enough, you know, to give it some depth. You don't want to go too crazy with it. You want just enough for it to make sense. You don't want it to be like, you know, you don't want to do a whole like, oh man, I just slathered all this on here, I don't even know what it is, and then someone tries to figure it out and you're like, I don't know. You don't want that, right? You know, you don't want to do that. So let's see here. There we go. So yeah, just a generous amount, you know, nothing too crazy. Now, white calligraphy ink is going to always fade out real light. Okay, it's going to be very light, almost like non-existent ashy, so you can give yourself a little bit of leniency with it. If you want it to be a little bit darker, you kind of want to go a little heavy, but you don't want to go so heavy that it's going to just bleed out, right? But you want to go heavy enough that it's going to sustain and hold. For whatever reason, I don't know why it's like that. Someone might put in the comments or be like, well, you know, it's because of the trajectory of the moon or something. And if that's the case, cool. Hey, if you know, not everybody knows everything, right? That's why we have other people in the world, because not everybody knows everything. You gotta have other people sometimes to help. All right. Now, here's another thing. If by chance you're doing something like doing an ink picture and you're like, oh man, this isn't really showing up the way I want it to because it keeps bleeding in. Like you see, it's faint, right? You can go to a different medium, okay? Now you can always mix your mediums together if you want to. I do it quite often. Now, just remember, you have to know what I call the friend point. That's what I use as a term. How does this work with this? You know, are they pretty decent friends? Does this not like the way that he hangs out with the black marker? Chill out, right? That's a joke. You know, funny stuff. But you never know. Sometimes I can say this: acrylic paint can work with pretty much almost anything except for oil. Now, to do it with oil, it gets messy, and I don't choose to do that. And same thing with watercolor and acrylic, that can get messy too. But if you have something like acrylic paint pens, they work very well as well. You can use that as a substitute. Now, it will bleed down into more of a lighter gray if you're trying to do stuff in the gray area, right? But it will bleed down into something else. But if you want it just to give it that aspect, like what I'm doing here, you can easily just come through and give it a little bit of some love, right? Not a lot. It ain't gonna kill it. You see what I mean? And then you can just add a little bit there, and then just a smidge there, right? And it's not like overpowering it, right? Yeah, just like that. I think we know maybe 0.1. Of course, scientific knowledge. Yeah, no, we don't know shit. We don't know anything. We don't know nothing, Satarius. Nobody knows anything on this planet. We guesstimate so hard. We have no idea what's going on. To be honest with you, I think everything that we have done on this planet, we have done to a certain point, and then we run into things that tell us, hey, you're doing too much, and then we have to take a step back. Because, you know, it's like, oh man, you went to the moon? Yeah, why haven't you been back? Yeah, about that. You know? We don't even know anything. We have no idea. Like, I always think of this, like, what if we got anti-gravity, like gravity wrong and everything? What if like, we're using elements that are too heavy? You know, certain stuff like that. We have no idea. We don't know. We don't know nothing. And it's okay. That makes me laugh when someone's like, well, my hypothesis is when I figured this out, and, you know, the trajectory of the sun and the radiation. How do you know, Poindexter? When did you touch the sun? When were you there? Last time I checked, you're still talking. That means that your body didn't incinerate the moment you came into contact. I don't know, man. It's just funny. Science. Science. Well, that's not too bad. There we go. So, you know, you can add a little bit. Now, when you're dealing with gray, it's not going to show up that much. So then, what you will have to do then, it's like a two-step process. Like, you'll do that, and then you'll let it dry. And then once it's dry, then you'll do the same thing that you did previously. You know, you'll add a little line here, little dollop for a little rock, little path maybe here, you know, kind of like leading back here, little crevice, little nook, little that, little this, you know, a little bit of that jaggedness with some of this. Boom, boom. See, now you got a whole different situation down here, right? Look at Avalanche City, right? There it is. Well, I hope everybody learned something tonight. Did you guys learn anything tonight? Did I teach you guys anything, or was I just sitting here running my mouth? Which is fine too. I don't care. I like running my mouth. It's just hard to put it back on my face when it gets too far out. Not enough video to maintain a smooth stream. Oh boy, isn't that something? Smooth. What is that? Why is it acting silly? So, I want to give this a minute, because there ain't much I can really do with this. This was something I wanted to do a little while back. I guess I could just do something funky back here if you really want to see something wild and crazy. Here, we'll give you guys some Mars stuff, right? I'm gonna give you guys some Mars stuff. How about this? How about I turn this into a building? You want to see this turned into a building? I can turn that into a base. Let's do that. Yeah, let's give the people what they want. They want to see. They want to see the base. Fine, we'll give them the base. There's a little something. Let's see. Another technique. Oh. I guess I can show you guys how to draw some arms and stuff. I'm a terrible teacher. I'm really bad. I'm not a good teacher at all. I thought I could teach, but I kind of suck at it. I don't know. I get off on different stuff. But there we go. So this again, another little perspective thing, right? There we go. Well, don't worry, listen to that. There we go. Man, alright, so now you see this and it's like, oh, well, what's that? You know? Something extra there. There we go. There's the rock. Let's scoot it up some. And see, wavy lines is really easy to make rocks, like stalactites and stuff is literally just a bunch of wavy lines into a semi-point. Don't have to be perfect either because nature ain't perfect, right? So there isn't anything perfect about that. And you don't have to be perfect with it. It just has to make sense. That's all that really matters with a lot of art It just needs to make sense, right? If it makes sense, you can get by with pretty much anything. Like, oh man, you know, that looks weird. No, it's just a horse wearing a suit. Oh, well, that makes sense, you know. You know, that's literally it. Not saying that it does, that there's no depth in art, but if you can make sense of it, or if you can't make sense of it, if it twists and tangles the mind, is good. People love it. There, now I get to do a little bit. Cool. There we are. There we are. Woo, got a little locked in on that. All right. So, that's kind of an idea. And then once you get this, it's like, okay, now you got all the black space here, right? You got all of this here. Now, and this is how like you would use that. Once this chills out, and give it a second. Find it where it's not. Well, all of it is still tacky. We'll just have to come back to it at a later time. Since it's already 9 o'clock, what do you guys want to look at now? Someone in the chat throw something up. What you want to see? Because if you want me to show you something else, I can show you something else. Or I can work on something new. Or I can go back to working on something that I was previously working on. The choice is up to the chat. We got 30 minutes. First person throw something in the chat. That's what we're going to do. You know the game. You know how it works. Also, soon I'll be getting me a tattoo, little practice tattoo gun thing. That might be something. Somebody wanted me to try it out and see if I can do tattoos. They would love me to do a tattoo on them. I don't know. It's like a little small thing. It's like a practice skin and stuff. I thought it would be a neat medium to try to play with. I like new little things, new things to try to do art with. I think it would be an interesting experiment. Alright. I'll give you guys a few more minutes. And if nobody puts anything up, then I don't know what I might do. I might do a backflip. Nah, I ain't going to do a backflip. And I'm definitely not going to catch me doing that. That's funny. That's funny. I know somebody may have thought that, like, oh man, I would love to. Used to be able to, but I haven't been able to do that in a long time. Very, very, very long time. Feels like another lifetime. And you know what really sucks is the delay with the damn YouTube, because they're like, oh man, people should do an undead clown making a balloon animal out of a skin sack. You gotta try harder than that, Zetarius. I can do that with my eyes closed. That's what you want. Okay, here we go. On the clock, right? No pencil either. It's all going to be pen. Oh yeah, nobody knows what the hell that is, huh? Oh yeah, that looks gross. Not dealing with that. No, no, ding, ding, ding. Not feeling that tonight. He needs a good clown name. I don't even know. I'll go. Wait until he's. I'll wait until I get to the shading before I do anything with that. I'll give it that before we name them. I want to at least get the detail going before I do anything with that. But we'll be there soon. Okay, there we go. Alright. Well, you know what that is? Putrid Pete? Possibly. That's a possibility. Well, we'll see. Hold on. Alright, let's see here. Ah, here it is. Alright, now we can do the next part. I'll let this pen chill out. All right. Funny me. Hey, Angela, how you doing? Thanks, everyone. If you haven't already. Thank you. Thank you very much. Funny Meat. Funny Meat's a good... Those are both good names. Here's the thing. I think this clown might need some color. I mean, you know, you guys are talking about all his flesh and all that kind of stuff, right? Right? Well, I mean, you know, that's what you want. Sounds like that's what you want. Sounds like you want skin to win. Right? Well, who am I to deny you what you want? Nope. Not doing that. We're not doing the great climb of whatever. I'm not feeling that tonight. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to dab it. I'm not even going to give it full color. I'm just going to dab it enough just to make you guys slightly irritated. Right? Just to know just a little bit what's going on. Let's see. Also, guys, drop a comment in the chat. Email is open to any comment. Questions about something interesting. Hey, yeah, just what Angela said. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. There we are. All right. Oh, this is. There we go. I'm trying to find that fleshy tone pink. Because you guys want gross stuff, right? That's what you're wanting. You know. Don't need to shy away now. We're already in the thick of the gross. So, you know, a little fleshy pink teeth and whatever the hell that is. Alright. Oh, that's silver. Hey, yo, rockin'. Hey, there we go. That's a little gray. There we go. Oh, hey, how you doing, Linda? Welcome. Thank you for showing up. You called us just in time. About to finish this zombie clown Zaterius wanted to see, and I think you called me right before we finished. Actually, good timing. There we go. I can get this clown all kinds of silly colors, right? Because he's a silly clown and he's dead. So, like, what can he do? And he's over here making weird balloon animals, but not for long. Like, his fingers will start falling off. He's weird. Look at him. He's in so much distress. He's having a terrible time. I was watching on the TV, but can't comment there. I got you. Yeah. You would think, well, you know, that's the other thing, too. You would think that they would be able to allow that to happen, just like we were supposed to have flying cars, but, you know, we don't ever get the stuff that we're supposed to get that makes sense. You know? You would think that they would have, like, YouTube-ready televisions as much as they have everything else. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, man, you already went over that, Mel. Why are you doing that? Well, don't worry about that. You know, I can always go back over and get the line work put back in it. That's not a problem. Getting the color, that's a different story, and getting it where I need it. Because, see, the technique I'm using here, if there is such a thing, I want it to look raggedy. So I'm not putting a lot of emphasis on trying to make it look pretty. I want it to look jagged. I want it to look a little off. I want it to look a little tattered. Because, you know, he's a zombie. He's been bopping around with a rotted body out here. Like, he's not going to be prim and pristine. He's going to be a little funky and off, right? So, yeah, we got old rough clown over here. What kind of vest would he wear? Yellow, old bright canary yellow. Yeah, platinum neon yellow. That's it. A lot of hot and cold contrast here. You know, that's the difference between the color palette that I'm using here. I'm using hot and cold, right? A little mixture of both. You can use that. That's another thing that we'll talk about too. Color is really interesting. Because, you know, hot and cold runs almost off of each other a lot. If you understand that, then you can kind of finagle different colors. Pastel's different though. Pastel's a whole different kind of thing, because you're looking at the subtleness of the color, not the boldness. You're looking for the subtle hint of it instead of it being powerful and taking over the presence of the picture or painting or whatever the case. Let's see, what are we going to do for his hair? Oh yeah, let's give him some funky pink, because, you know, he's a little clown, so, you know, we'll do that. We'll give him some pink in his hair. You know, I'm assuming he was at a birthday party. The kid may have been infected with some hobo virus and bit him, and now he got contaminated. He was just trying to pay his way through college, and then he got chewed up at some kid's birthday party. Now he's a zombie. His whole life was going to be something else, right? And then some pesky kid chewed on his flesh, and now he's compromised. That's how it happens. That's how it happens. What's the moral of the story? Stay away from birthday parties. You never know when a child might be either a vampire, or it could be a zombie and they bite you, and you end up in a mangled mess like this man making those plushies, right? Well, I wanted to at least get most of this done. I know I went over a little bit, but you guys know how I am. I don't like to do something half done. So, there we are. Oh man, he looks rough. He's seen better days. I'm sure of that. Alright, one last color. Let's give him some blue. Let's give him some blue. You know what to do. Give him some blue. Get out of here. What kind of blue? Let's see. Let's give him some brighter blue. There we go. Alright. Now, since you guys see all this here, right? Like, you see all this. Now it's like, man, that's dull, Mel. Are you really going to leave us with a dull-looking picture like this? I mean, you think I would leave you with a dull picture? Really, really, let me know. Does somebody think I'm going to leave with a dull picture since it's already, what, 9:35? You think I'm going to leave this picture dull? You're wrong. I'm not. I want to put a little bit more oomph into it because it bothers me. It looks plain Jane, and I don't like my work looking plain Jane. So let's fix that, shall we? And then I'll get out of here. You see what a dollop of daisy can do for you? Look at that. Just something as simple as just a little bit more outline. A little bit more flavor. Look at that. There we go. You see? And it just spruces it up just a little bit. Makes it a little bit darker. Right? As some people like to say, it makes it pop. You know. Pop is a good word too. Actually, we can do better than that. I can... let's see. Since, I mean, we're already going big line anyways, right? Big old Bozo the Clown. We can just do this and... Alright, there we go. Yeah, I think we're done for tonight. Hey, Skew. Oh, I'm glad you made it. You made it right at the end. But hey, you made it though, right? There you go. That's okay. It happens. Alright, there we go. Let's name this man, I guess, now. Oh boy. Let's see. So what did we have in here earlier? What did we have here a minute ago? We had Funny Meat. We had Future Pete. Let's see. Yeah, I know what I can do. I know what I can do. Here's his name. I got a name for him. Alright, here it is. Future Funny Meat Pete. There you go. He's done. I hope you guys enjoy it. Have a good night with that. Have fun. There you go. Zetarius done. Funny Meat Pete. Yeah, that's it. Future Funny Meat Pete. Done. There. Gloves down. I'm done with it. Right? Done with it. Told you I would finish it. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So. Interesting name. Yes, indeed, it is. Oh, man. Shake that hand out. So, here. I will give you a recap since some of it, you may be able to see it. But basically, Skew, what we went over. And you may not, this may not make much sense. But I did promise I would show you. Hold on. I would say go back to the beginning. Good night. Thank you for showing up, Linda. Yes, he is everything he needs to be. Yes, indeed. So, if you are able to look at the stream from earlier, I went over the perspective aspect of stuff, as well as I went over certain little details as well. I don't know, I might make shorts of it. I mean, there's thousands of other people, but I guess I can do it in my style. Hopefully that may make sense to you. And we did do another picture. Oh, I'll show you guys something I sketched the other day I was piddling with. Nothing serious, but, you know, I will look fantastic. Yeah, that's cool. See, I doodled this the other day. I don't even know. I was piddling with robots, right? Ooh, look at that illusion. You see that pencil work? Look at that faded. Woo! That's cool. That was neat. That was a little disturbing, but hey, who cares, right? Anyways, I'm going to go on ahead and get out of here. I hope you guys will be here Tuesday. Same time, same place. Probably do something digital. I got almost the entire cowboy coloring book done. So that's all. Pretty much got all the pictures drawn. I got all the line work except for 5 in the cover. But once that's done, I'll probably show you guys. So I'll probably be done with that either Tuesday or Thursday. But that's what we're going to be working on, finishing that up. So I hope you're ready for a robotic cowboys. Anyways, I'm out of here. I'll see you later. Stay mad. Bye.